have sort of graced Indian sport in Pullela Gopichand. Vijay sir is a legend in his own right, 10 medals at the Commonwealth Games, and Mirabat, Chanu, what more, World Championship, Commonwealth Games, Olympic medalist. There you go, the winning mantra. Abhinav, the first question to you. You know, we all put pressure. The winning mantra, the essence of the winning mantra is pressure. We expect from our athletes, we expect Adil to give us champions, we expect you to win. How did you deal with pressure? Because all of us deal with pressure in different ways. How did you deal with pressure?
Badly. Because I'm a human being and I don't like pressure. And I didn't deal with it well. But I learned to coexist with it. I learned to find a way to work myself in those situations. But did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy pressure? No, definitely not. That was not for me. I was in a sport which is kind of a lonely pursuit. You know, shooting is very individual, and at least in my era in the mid-90s, early 2000s, it was not the way it is developed as of today. You know, I had a lonely sort of a career, but my constant companion in these 20-odd years in sport was self-doubt. So self-doubt and pressure, not a good combination. But I found ways to deal with it. I think one of the biggest things that really helped me deal with pressure was accepting it. I think that is very important. I think when we go to an Olympic Games or when we have pressure as human beings, and especially human beings like me who don't take pressure well, we resist it because it's uncomfortable. It's not something we like. But the moment I started accepting it and learning to coexist with it, it became a little bit easier. And I could at least start focusing on the process of what I had to actually do to execute my skills. So that was an important learning that I had in terms of dealing with it. Self-doubt was a very difficult part as well to try and deal with. I did a lot of work to you know, get the self-belief that is needed. I did a lot of work to get the confidence that was needed. I hired psychologists, I worked with trainers, but frankly, in hindsight, it was a waste of money. What really worked for me, or what changed for me, was when I stopped chasing self-belief and I started chasing self-respect. And that was a very defining moment in my career. And how did I chase the self-respect? Was giving it my all. The Olympics, as I said, didn't come once in 4 years, they came every day. It was a pursuit to be able to be the best that I could be better than what I was yesterday, and to really put my best foot forward every day. And every night before I went to sleep, I would look into the mirror and ask myself the question, you know, have I given it my all? And on days when I did say yes, I always had a good night's sleep. And this process, repeated day in and day out, slowly started to build a degree of confidence, a degree of security, because when I gained my self-respect, I was already a winner. I was a winner in my own eyes. And that was the most important thing on how to deal with pressure. When before I went to Beijing, I asked myself the question, have I put in my all for the last 4 years? And the answer was yes. And there I had my self-respect. And even before I shot the first Olympic competition shot in Beijing, I'd already won. I had won in my own eyes. That was powerful.
Fabulous. What a start. Gopi, if I could come to you on that note, I mean, you know, in your case, moving on from being a champion yourself to producing champion athletes, time and again we build it up. Gopichand at the center of a badminton revolution. Gopichand has to give us medals, 2012, 2016, 2020. Similar kind of question, Paris. Now the sport has so much investment. How do you deal with this constant media glare, constant pressure, and obviously once the athlete grows, everybody has his or her ego, and all of these are successful athletes. How do you manage so many successful athletes as a coach?
I think as Abhinav has said it, I think you learn to coexist with the differences. I think one of the bigger things, I think for me, maybe the last 15 years of coaching, right from 2004 when I started to maybe 2017, 18 were a different ball game. And the last few years have been very different. Today, there's a lot more media attention, there's a lot more social media, there's a lot more people involved in the sport, whether it's sponsors, managers, NGOs, federations, sometimes judiciary, politicians. There's too many people involved. So at the moment I get up in the morning, I say, I've done what I have to do over the years. I get up in the morning, do the best of what you can do, just stay happy, and then push in the things which you can push, and forget about the things which you cannot change. And I think that has been something which has been clearly the case. As far as shutting off is concerned, I've figured out a lot of ways of shutting off, so I don't let things which bother me surface up too many times. So I think that's one way of keeping the ecosystem a bit sane.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
how I look at it.
मीरा, जब आप रियो के बाद टोक्यो गए तो ऑल ऑफ अस, एंड यू वर द ओनली एथलीट इन वेट लिफ्टिंग, सबके उम्मीद आप पर थे, आपने सिल्वर मेडल जीत के हमारा खाता खोला इन टोक्यो. ऑल ऑफ अ सडन पूरा देश मीराबाई चानू चालू हो गया. उसके बाद वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप दोबारा आप जीते. उसके बाद आप उसके पहले कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स का गोल्ड भी आपने जीता. एक ही मेडल आपने अभी तक नहीं जीता है, वो इस साल है, वो है एशियन गेम्स. अगेन आपके साथ चाइना का कट्टर टक्कर होने वाला है, बिकॉज द चाइनीज आर गुड. हाउ डू यू लुक एट दैट? बिकॉज नाउ मीराबाई चानू इज ऑन सोशल मीडिया. हम लोग आप पे प्रेशर डालेंगे, आप क्या गोल्ड जीत के लाओगे. हाउ डू यू डील विद दैट काइंड ऑफ प्रेशर?
बहुत खुशी हुई कि बैक टू बैक मैंने मेडल लिया है इंडिया के लिए. तो इस बार भी हाँ, मेरे अभी तक जब भी मैंने गेम्स शुरू किया था तब से मेरा सपना थी एशियन गेम्स में मेडल लेना. तो 2018 में मैं मिस हो गई थी कि बैक इंजरी के कारण मैं पार्टिसिपेट नहीं कर पाई. पर इस बार होने वाले हैं एशियन गेम्स. मैं इसमें पूरा कोशिश करूंगी मेरी तरफ से कि हाँ, मेरा ओपोनेंट बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है, फिर भी मैं पूरा कोशिश करूंगी कि मैं क्या कर सकती हूँ. मैं जो भी मेरे अंदर में जो आई है मैं पूरा निकालूंगी. बस जो भी मैंने आज तक मेडल जीता है कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स में, ओलंपिक में, वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप में, ये पूरा भारतवर्ष ने मेरे लिए इतना प्रे किया है, प्यार दिया है. तो मुझे लगता है उनकी वजह से मैं मेडल जीती हूँ. तो मैं आगे की भी मैं आप सबका आशीर्वाद चाहती हूँ. पूरा मेरे तरफ से कोशिश रहूँगी और मैं पूरा फोकस रहूँगी एशियन गेम्स में. मैं इंडिया के लिए एक मेडल लेने के लिए. और प्रेशर तो होते ही है, ये हर प्लेयर्स के ऊपर होते हैं प्रेशर में से हमको सीखने को मिलते हैं कि मैं आगे के लिए और भी अच्छा करूँगी.
ओके विजय सर, यू नो व्हेन यू ट्रेन एथलीट्स लाइक मीरा, आप जब कोचिंग पे आए वेट लिफ्टिंग टीम का, देखिए, एंड सॉरी टू आस्क यू अ क्रिटिकल क्वेश्चन एट द स्टार्ट, हम सब वेट लिफ्टिंग के साथ डोपिंग एसोसिएट करते थे कि वेट लिफ्टिंग का एक बदनाम हो चुका है डोपिंग के कारण, एथलीट्स बैन हो चुके हैं, भारतवर्ष एक के लिए नाम खराब हो चुका है. वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चंस आई आस्क्ड यू इयर्स बैक, इफ़ यू रिमेंबर, कि आप डोपिंग के साथ कैसे डील करोगे, आप कैसे इस प्रॉब्लम को संभालोगे. आप आने के बाद एटलीस्ट नेशनल टीम में हमने एक भी केस नहीं देखा है. ज़रा इसके बारे में जिक्र करिए.
गुड मॉर्निंग एवरीवन. बोरिया जी, आपने एक बड़ा अच्छा सवाल किया है. जब से मैंने एज ए चीफ कोच ज्वाइन किया है, लकीली कोई भी पॉजिटिव केस वेट लिफ्टिंग में नहीं है. इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे, नेशनल लेवल पे और नीचे थोड़े से अभी चल रहे हैं. और उसको ठीक करने के लिए हमारी वेट लिफ्टिंग फेडरेशन और नाडा ने हमारा बहुत सहयोग किया है कि हम जब भी हमने उनको रिक्वेस्ट की है नेशनल कैंप में डोप टेस्ट कराने के लिए, नेशनल चैम्पियनशिप में डोप टेस्ट कराने के लिए, और इससे ज़्यादा ज़रूरी जो अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम हमारी फेडरेशन और नाडा ने मिलकर किए हैं, उसका काफ़ी अच्छा रिजल्ट मिला है. जो प्लेयर्स को अवेयर किया कि इसके साइड इफ़ेक्ट्स क्या हैं, इससे कोई बेनिफिट नहीं होता है, ये सिर्फ एक मिथ है कि गलत चीज़ खा के हम परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं. उसके साथ साथ जो मेरा पर्सनल रोल नेशनल कैंप में रहा है, बच्चों को ये बिलीव कराना कि जो अनफेयर मीन्स हैं उसे यूज़ करके आपको कोई फ़ायदा नहीं मिलेगा. हम बिना अनफेयर मीन्स के अच्छे टारगेट्स वर्ल्ड लेवल पे परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं. और ईश्वर की दुआ से मैं उसमें काफ़ी कामयाब हुआ हूँ. जो आजकल अब जो मेरे पास प्लेयर्स हैं उनको ये विश्वास है कि हम कोई भी अनफेयर मीन्स ना यूज़ करके भी वर्ल्ड में मेडल ले सकते हैं.
Abhinav, you know, there are two top coaches on stage, Vijay Sharma, Pullela Gopichand. In your case, how has your relationship been with your coaches? You've trained with so many coaches. Is there a story that we can, how was your relationship with coaches?
Well, I had several different coaches during the course of my career. Some coaches I really loved and got along with. They became an extension of family. Some coaches I really hated, but I continued to work with them because they still brought a lot of value. Perhaps I'll talk a little bit about one relationship with my coach, Coach Uwe from Germany. He was my biggest critic throughout my sports career. He kept telling me things that I did not want to hear. He made me cry many times, and I was paying him money to actually make me cry. We had a lot of disagreements. We had a lot of arguments. But you know, every time an argument happened, and after a couple of days when things cooled down, suddenly his perspective also started making sense to me. And I became a good listener. And I think that is also, you know, you're talking about a winning mantra or winning formula. I think as athletes, we also have to be good listeners because you never know from which strange place you'll get advice, which can be very, very valuable. And because I decided to continue to work with him, perhaps 95% of the things that he told me didn't stick, but the 5 things that did, I ended up following became the most valuable things that helped me in my sports career. Talking about number one, it taught me how to deal with conflict. Because one day it was in Germany and it was snowing, and you know the shooting ranges were in the middle of nowhere, probably in a jungle, and my hotel was 7 kilometers away, and we had a big argument over something, and he decided to leave me. So I was all alone. I was all alone, and I had to walk back 7 kilometers to my hotel room, and that taught me something. That I have to start learning to deal with arguments.
In the middle of snow?
I had to walk back, but it taught me that I had to start learning to deal with conflict better because I didn't want to walk back the next day in snow after the next argument. But the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes you're going to have relationships which will be very smooth. Sometimes you're going to have different, you're going to have conflicts, and you'll also have coaches which will bring a different perspective. But the important thing is to also value that different perspective and give it a thought. Think through why a coach is actually telling you something. Because at the end of the day, it also, you can be an athlete who just listens to the coach and just follows blindly without questioning, which is one way of doing it. I didn't do it that way. I always questioned. I always asked my coaches, you know, what I should, why are they making me change something? And that helped me. That helped me because it made me quite a self-aware athlete. And self-awareness was something which was also very an integral part of dealing with, say, pressure, for example. Because pressure manifests in different ways. It's not just butterflies in your stomach, but pressure can also lead to muscular tension, for example. So having self-awareness was also a very important aspect of dealing with pressure, and that came through being a good listener, by learning to value different perspectives.
Okay.
And that was important.
I'll come back to this manifestation of pressure question to Abhinav because I want to understand how, but I'll come back to that. Mira, sir, Vijay sir के साथ आपका झगड़ा वगड़ा होता है? आप झगड़ा वगड़ा कर लेते हो? नहीं होता है? अरे आप बोल नहीं रहे हो on stage. सर आपको जब ज़्यादा पुश करते हैं तो आप कैसे डील करते हो इनको? सर नहीं सुन रहे, आप बताइए ना.
नहीं, हाँ, मैं आज तक बहुत सारी कोचेस के साथ में काम किया हूँ, पर तब सर के साथ में तब से मैं ट्रेनिंग शुरू किया है, तो ऐसा कोई प्रॉब्लम या ऐसे कुछ नहीं है. सब अच्छी सिखाया है सर ने मुझे, हर चीज़ छोटे से छोटे लेके सब कुछ. तो आज मेरे लिए बहुत ही अच्छी कोच है. मैं सर भी, हाँ, कभी कभी बीच में जब ट्रेनिंग अच्छा नहीं होती, सर का थोड़ा सा मन खराब होते हैं, बोल लेते हैं, पर मेरे लिए वो सर समझाते हैं अच्छे से.
सर ये बताओ, ये तो she is saying good things about you, which is understandable, वो बोल नहीं रही है. But on a tough note, when you are in competition and you have to make those half a kilo calculations with your opponents and your last lift. How do you calibrate that? In weightlifting, for me, that is the most fascinating aspect, because if you make a wrong call, she loses. India loses, right? आपको वो 1 किलो का कैलकुलेशन अगर आप 1 किलो बढ़ा देते हो and somebody else from another country आके 2 किलो करके लास्ट लिफ्ट उठा देते हैं तो वो जीत जाएंगे, गोल्ड मेडल हार जाओगे आप. हाउ डू यू मेक दैट कैलकुलेशन? एंड आई रिमेंबर जेरेमीज लिफ्ट एट द कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स. यस,
पहले मैं आपकी पहली बात का जवाब दूंगा. जैसे आपने कहा है, अभिनव सर ने कहा है कि भाई 2 टाइप के मतलब तरीके से प्लेयर चल सकता है कोच के साथ क्वेश्चन करके. तो मैं वो नौबत नहीं आने देता हूँ अपने प्लेयर के साथ कि मैं जो भी चेंज करने जाता हूँ किसी भी चीज़ में, टेक्निक में या ट्रेनिंग पैटर्न में, तो पहले मैं बच्चों के साथ डिस्कस करता हूँ कि मैं ये करना चाह रहा हूँ, रिजल्ट करने के बाद पता चलेगा. तो हम लोग इसे ट्राई करते हैं और हमेशा कभी कभी होता है कि हम नहीं जो सोच रहे हैं वो कामयाब नहीं हो पाता है, कभी कभी हो जाता है. तो मीरा है, जर्मी है, मीरा सवाल कम करती है, जर्मी करता है. तो ये डिपेंड करता है प्लेयर के ऊपर. मेरी कोशिश ये रहती है कि मैं प्लेयर को समझाऊं कि मैं क्या करने जा रहा हूं और क्यों करने जा रहा हूं. तो उसके बाद थोड़ा इजी हो जाता है चेंज करना. और दूसरा सवाल जो आपका है पॉन्डेज को लेके जो प्लेटफॉर्म पे देना है, तो वो प्लेयर से ज़्यादा जिम्मेदारी कोच की होती है. मेडल भी, प्लेयर की परफॉर्मेंस, सब कुछ उसी पे डिपेंड करता है. तो जो हम पूरे साल ट्रेनिंग करते हैं उसका एनालाइज करके हम पहले से प्लानिंग बनाते हैं कि हम कहाँ तक जा सकते हैं, मेरे प्लेयर की कैपेसिटी क्या है, मेरे अपोनेंट की कैपेसिटी क्या है. उसको पहले उसके सारे कंपटीशन हम रीड करते हैं कि उसने किस कंपटीशन में क्या किया है, वो कहाँ तक जा सकता है. तो उस तरीके से बस उस टाइम अपने फिजिकल कंडीशन देखते हैं क्या है और पॉन्डेज देते हैं. बाकी तो ट्रेनिंग जो की है उस पर डिपेंड करता है.
okay. Gopi, in your case, I mean, you've trained some of India's most high-profile athletes. How do things change? I mean, I'm taking Sindhu's case, for example. She's trained with you in the past. She's trained with Park in the recent past. Now she's got a new coach or will have a new coach. Things keep changing. Obviously, relationships evolve. When an athlete becomes successful in a social media age, social media is another influencing factor. How do you factor such things? I mean, when an athlete, all of a sudden somebody you've trained for a long time, take a Saina or a Sindhu, and you see, okay, this athlete, perhaps in the interest of you and Indian badminton, it's better to let that athlete go. It's a question of self-doubt. How do you deal with such critical situations?
Well, definitely some of these decisions give you a lot of pain. But at the end of the day, to understand that you're doing it for a reason. And for me, it's been very clear that
Just a little bit up, yeah.
badminton is paramount, and the system and the structure is more important than the athlete. Because if the system is there, then you will keep producing players. If the culture is there, you'll keep producing players. And I cannot remain a one-player coach. And this was something which I was clear in my head from the very beginning. And this is why I let go of players when I needed to, because the system and the culture of the place was more important than the player.
How tough was that? I mean, to let a Saina go when she had just won a world championship, 2013, or a Sindhu winning a world champion. How tough was that? I mean, because post-Rio, you and Sindhu were almost together. And to now see sort of, I mean, to focus on juniors where the limelight is less, maybe the monetary incentive is less. How tough was that?
I think it's sad that these things happened, but it's okay. In the sense, it probably is a day or two when you feel that, because all I can see is I wish the player could achieve their total potential. That's where it hurts. Beyond that, on a personal note, it doesn't hurt at all.
Okay. Abhinav, a couple of times social media came up in this conversation. There are a lot of young athletes here. I mean, a lot of young athletes. Social media puts so much pressure. People do so many things for a few likes and few whatever. How does an athlete, I mean, who's constantly in glare, a Rudransh Patil, who used sort of, you know, he idolizes you. I did an interview with him. How do they deal with these external pressures? How do they shut these external pressures when they are shooting, the media glare, people shouting from behind? How tough is all this?
It's obviously tough, but and I think you have to learn and train to to shut off these and handle these distractions. I think social media is a big thing at the moment, and it's part and parcel of current day culture and current day circumstance. So they have to learn to deal with it. But I think the important thing is making sure that your primary focus is your training. Your primary focus is to do well in competition, and when you do that, everything else takes care of itself. I mean, you can't just, your primary focus cannot become more social media likes. If you go that route, you may have a little bit of success there, but I don't think you'll be able to sustain success. You have to have purity in your pursuit, and that purity in that pursuit will only come when your training and what you have to do on the field of play is sacrosanct, and that should remain your primary focus. And if you have that attitude, then I'm sure athletes will find their way to shut off these distractions that exist in today's.
But when a young athlete gets viciously trolled and abused, and families are abused, for example, in Manu's case, post-Tokyo, where her gun malfunctions, and all of a sudden the whole country takes off on her, she's a 19-year-old, how does one deal with such situations?
I think you have to build an environment around you which is psychologically safe. I think you cannot, your self-worth cannot be associated to external validation. It's important, but it's not the only thing that should be something that gives you confidence or affects your self-worth. I think your self-worth, there's much more to it. It's not, you cannot just look at the external validation from outside. Build an environment around you. You have to live in that bubble. You have to build that psychologically safe environment in your support staff, in your coaches. Family plays, of course, a massive role in that. And because those are the people who will be with you during thick and thin. In times when everything looks hopeless, these are the people who will continue to see hope in you. And it's important to surround yourself with positivity. I think that is very, very important.
Okay. Last few minutes on this particular panel, so quick questions for all my panelists. Vijay sir, मीरा ने एशियन गेम्स का जिक्र किया, वही मेडल मिस हो रहा है, 7 महीना बाद है, प्रेपरेशन, उनका फिजिकलिटी एंड ऑब्वियसली कंपटीशन, क्या लग रहा है आपको? हाउ क्लोज आर यू, हाउ डिफिकल्ट इज इट, बट आर यू कॉन्फिडेंट?
मैं पूरा कॉन्फिडेंट हूँ कि जो आज की हमारी तैयारी है उस हिसाब से हमें मेडल जरूर मिलेगा एशियन गेम्स का। जो अभी रिसेंट वर्ल्ड चैम्पियनशिप हुई है उसमें हमने चाइना के साथ फाइट किया, 2 प्लेयर चाइना के थे, जो करंट ओलंपिक चैंपियन थी उसको हमने बीट किया, 2nd प्लेस लिए, तो 1 प्लेयर और है। मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ अगर हम इसी तरीके से रहे तो हम गोल्ड के लिए फाइट करेंगे। तैयारी हमारी अच्छी है, बाकी देखते हैं।
Fantastic. Gopi, same question. All of a sudden, start of 23, we've seen in the Mixed Asia Championships, your daughter, Gayatri, again, we're celebrating women. We've seen serious peak in the graph, Gayatri and Teresa, and I'm told by Vishnu that you are again sort of coming back, training with them physically in Hyderabad, in your academy. How are things there? Because you as coach, hands-on, and you as coach, hands-off are 2 very different things. Are you back to being hands-on?
I've always been, so it's just that the athletes, there's so many young talent which is coming up, and I love working with the younger ones. And it's great to see them perform the way they did at the Asian Championships. And hopefully they were young. At 19, they have still a few years for peak performance in the women's doubles. I just hope they're able to push more.
Yeah, and when it happens, Gopi and Gayatri, possible session next year at the Rev Sports Trailblazers Conclave. Mira, in your case, you are not only celebrated as an athlete, you are also looked upon as an inspiration for so many from the Northeast. Because traditionally, अगर हम देखें, Northeast एक अलग ही स्टोरी है, और वो आपके वजह से अभी इंटीग्रेशन हो रहा है, आपके वजह से एक कंप्लीट चेंज आ चुका है, रिस्पेक्टेबिलिटी आ चुका है, आप एक आइकॉन हो आपके होल रीजन में। आपके बाद क्या आप देख रहे हो बहुत सारे लड़कियां, बहुत सारे लोग एथलेटिक्स में आ रहे हैं, स्पोर्ट पे आ रहे हैं इन द नॉर्थ ईस्ट?
हाँ, ये बात मुझे भी बहुत खुशी हुई कि उन्होंने मुझे देख के ऐसा माइंड भी चेंज किया है कि मैं भी कर सकती हूँ। हम भी पहले जो सीनियर लोग को देख के ऐसा आते थे कि हाँ मैं भी मैम जैसा बनना चाहती हूँ। वैसे बहुत सारी मेरी दी है, वो सबको देख के हम भी लगते हैं कि हाँ मैं भी मेरी दीदी जैसा बनना चाहती हूँ। तो ऐसा ही उन्होंने मुझे भी शायद देख के ऐसा मन में चेंज हुआ है कि हाँ मैं भी एक स्पोर्ट्स में जाके बड़ा प्लेयर्स बनने का। तो मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट ही नहीं, पूरा इंडिया की जो भी बच्ची है, खास लड़कियाँ बहुत सारी आई है स्पोर्ट्स में। तो ये बहुत ही खुशी और बहुत बड़ी बात है मेरे लिए। तो ऐसे ही स्पोर्ट्स में और लड़कियाँ ज़्यादा आएगी तो हम इंडिया के लिए और भी मेडल ला सकते हैं और भी मतलब अच्छा होगा स्पोर्ट्स में।
I will ask one final question of Abhinav and open it up for one question from the floor because we started 5 minutes late, and then we'll move on to the next panel because we've got a very intense day. Abhinav is a smart man, all of us know, attractive man, but used to carry a pocket mirror. Now, was he looking at himself? I leave him to tell the story. Why did Abhinav Bindra carry a pocket mirror during his career?
Well, not just to reinforce how good looking I am, but but you know, I was talking about pressure and you know how pressure used to manifest to me, and I used to have a lot of tension on my face, and my jaw used to tense up a lot, which meant that my neck would not rotate anymore when the jaw tensed up. Of course, in the later part of my career, there was technology where you could, you know, use EMG and you could see how much tension you were carrying. But early on during my career, there was no way to find out. So my coaches told me, carry a pocket mirror, and every 10 minutes, I had to look myself into the mirror, and I had to smile, and I had to loosen up my facial tension. And it helped me. It helped me quite a lot.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, one question from the floor from anybody. Even if one of the... Why don't... Is Manu there? Manu, question for Abhinav. Opportunity. Ask him. Can we have a microphone to Manu Bakar, please? You've got him on stage. Ask him. This is amazing. I mean, this is why this conclave is being held, okay? Ultimately, a legend to a would-be. Yes.
Thank you. So my question to Abhinav, sir, is I'm just curious about your Olympic experience, the first that you lost and the second that you won. So,
I don't think I lost. I think I gained experiences, and I think that is what is important. I think you never lose. I think how many athletes go to an Olympic Games? 10,000 athletes participate in an Olympic Games. Only 300 go back with gold medals. So everybody hasn't lost. You've gained a lot from that experience, and I gained a lot from that experience and tried to become a better athlete the next day. So I used it as experiences. These are experiences of a lifetime. You know, it built character. It taught me things for life, which I use, of course, in sport, but I can also use those experiences in difficult, challenging moments just in life. So it is an experience that I had. Okay, sometimes the outcome wasn't what I desired, but that's okay. That is life. You're not going to get everything what you desire. But you try and put your best foot forward. You continue to work hard with honesty and integrity and being honest to your goals. Continue to persist, and you'll always have your pride. And that, I think, is more important than standing on top of the podium.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Manu. Thank you, Abhinav. That brings us to the end of the first session. And you have another one? Yeah, sure. Can we have a microphone to Deepa ji, please? Yeah, go for it. It's chali din.
We spoke a lot about preparations of the forthcoming athletes in badminton. And I know Gopichand Academy is focusing a lot on para-athletes and para-badminton players as well. So how do you see the para-badminton future from your academy? Is there a lineup coming up soon?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think para-athletes have been a huge source of inspiration personally. I think for me to see players with disability come every day morning and push themselves with a smile is an inspiration for me and the fellow able-bodied athletes. So that's one of my reasons for pushing para-athletes into the academy. And for me, that's huge because I think they've been a huge inspiration. And I do see it going places and a very integral part of the academy. I don't see them as different from any other athletes at the academy. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all my panelists. Trisha, can we have, is Chanakya there? Chanakya, please, can we have you on stage to felicitate my panelists from the first panel? So, please, can we have Chanakya, where's Minu? Minu, please, can we have you on stage to felicitate the first Trailblazers Conclave panel, Chanakya Chaudhary and Minu Agarwal, to felicitate Pullela Gopichand, Mirabat, Chanu, Abhinav, Bindra and Vijay Sharma. And what we've got is very specially crafted for this particular conclave. It's a Devi Durga Murti. Thank you, Sri Joy Bosch, for getting this done from a very special artist in Bishnupur. All our speakers, I got to get this to all our speakers, Minu, to Abhinav and to Vijay sir, please, and Chanakya. This is a very specially crafted murti made of terracotta. We are celebrating women's empowerment. This is about Nari Shakti and the power of the woman. To all our speakers, thank you very, very much. And now a photo op with the panelists as we bring to an end the first panel of the Trailblazers Conclave. Over to you, Shubha, and thank you to all my speakers. Thank you, Chanakya. Thank you, Minu. Thank you to all my speakers. Shubhan, over to you.
Hello. Yeah. What a fantastic start we have had to this Trailblazers Sports Conclave, and we move on to the second session of the day, and it's again a very, very special one. The theme of the